there, I hope you're having a lovely day. If you clicked on this video, I'm guessing that you're interested in becoming a residence assistant or an assistant on. Well, in that case, let's get started. In this presentation, I will go over the requirements needed to apply for the role, as well as some dates that you want to keep in mind when you're applying, and important aspects to the role that you should consider, followed by the application process and the interview. In terms of requirement, you need a cumulative GPA of 2.25. And if you currently do not have that GPA standing, that's okay. You should still apply if you're interested in the role. You're encouraged to apply even with a 2.0, as you may be offered a conditional offer. If selected, you will also need to provide us with your criminal record check, and this can be obtained from the local police or RCMP place. You would also need to provide us with your standard first aid and CPR certification, which needs to remain valid until the end of your term, which is till approximately end of April. And last but not least, after you are selected for the role, we will help you prepare for the role during various training sessions that occur throughout the year. So right after you are selected, there is a 2-day training in March. We will also provide you some online modules to complete over the summer, and this will lead into your fall training that occurs at the end of August. This is when the bulk of your training is done, and it lasts approximately a week, and then students arrive for orientation. And then we also have some short in-service training as well as a winter training day in January. So when it comes to the important dates for the RA and AD role, they obviously vary from year to year. And so I ask that you please look on the application website to find the most recent and accurate dates that relate to your RA and AD role for this year. So now let's jump into the good stuff. You're actually probably wondering what the RA or AD role looks like. So part of it is that you have to arrive first and leave last. That means you're going to be here before all students arrive for your training and making sure everything is in order. And then you leave last because you want to ensure their safety. So you will be here until all exams end, both winter and fall semester. Another big part of the role is also confidentiality, just because students will often come to you with their problems or issues, or you might just walk in or run into any kind of sensitive situations, and as such you have to be mindful of who you share this information with. So if you have any questions, you can ask your residence Dawn, talk to your fellow RAs or AD, and we also have the residence life manager who you can ask these questions. Now, another thing that you want to keep in mind when it comes to the RN80 role is that there's extensive training to go along with this. So as I had mentioned earlier, there are a bunch of training days, and the one especially in fall, which is that occurs in late August, is very critical because that's when you learn the bulk of information in regards to your role. This will help you prepare in terms of dealing with mental health issues, or if students are breaking any kind of residence policies, and overall how to deal with these situations. And it's not just a lecture style, we actually give you hands-on training so you feel more prepared walking into this role. And now, despite how well we might try and prepare you through this extensive training, there are going to be surprises along the way in your role. But as always, you can rely on your team, your Dawn, and the residence life manager. They're always there for you. And generally, if there was a way to summarize this role, is just to be an overall good role model. You want to make sure that you are also abiding by the rules that you're trying to enforce in your residence. If students see you break the very rules that you're trying to enforce with them, then it's just not going to make for a very respectful environment. So you want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward. And while being also a good role model, you also have to consider drawing those boundaries. You'll likely have to say no oftentimes because you can't give everything to this role. We respect that you're an individual. You did not come here to become an RA, so you have to make sure that you are keeping it with your academics and your overall personal life, and then you want to consider the role and your other parts of social life as well. Teamwork is a huge part of the role of being an RA or an AD. Now, you have your residence assistant team, but you also have other residence leaders. You have your admin and exec that you also have to work with in order to create this wonderful atmosphere in residence. So this requires a lot of collaboration and working around each other's schedule and being respectful of other team members to make sure that residents get the best res life experience at Mount A. And as an RA or an AD, you also end up becoming the residence Google. People ask you tons of questions when they first arrive to Mount A, and they seek to you, these wonderful leaders in residence, that they're like, oh, they're here to help me out. So you'll be asked a lot of simple questions oftentimes, and sometimes you'll have to point them to resources because that's not your place to answer that question. So you become this database for everyone in terms of navigating their time in Mount A. And as a former RA, I can tell you this role is very rewarding. Students come to you as their first point person in residence. You're one of the first people they see when they first move to Mount A. And so you build this amazing relationship and connection with your fellow students as well as your team. But it also means this role can be a bit taxing. That being said, we always, as mentioned before, that you have to learn to say no and create those boundaries, and we always encourage you to draw those lines because we don't want you to give everything of yourself away to this role. So self-care is very important while you're in the RA or AD role. And lastly, you might want to consider that this role also means working on some fun nights. You might not get all the nights off in the year that you want. For example, you can ask your AD when they're creating your RA schedule that, hey, I really like to take the night off on St. Patrick's, but that might involve you compromising on another weekend. For example, you might have to work the weekend on during the reading break. And so it's all about finding that perfect balance, and that can definitely be found if you take this as a collaborative effort with your fellow RAs and AD as well as your resident Don. Now, you may be curious about the difference between an AD and an RA. So far, I've been talking about the two roles as if they're the same thing, and they almost are, but there are some differences. Now, the AD does do everything the RA does, which includes the duty shifts, which essentially means doing rounds of the building on weekends to make sure everything is safe and nothing is getting too out of hand, enforcing residence rules, responding to any immediate concerns that residents might have, unlocking doors for residents, attending weekly meetings with other residence leaders to see how things are going in the house, and writing incidents reports to record any issues in residences so situations can be dealt with appropriately. ADs do all of these things that I just mentioned that the RAs do, but they also plan the duty schedule for the RA team. They attend AD meetings with Student Life and act as a liaison between the RA team and Student Life. You would also mediate any kind of team conflict within the RA team, or if there's a conflict with other residence leader teams, whether it's the ACMAN or the exec. And finally, ensure event safety during house events. So, for example, if you're having a house party, you're going to be in charge of creating the floor plans and making sure you have enough RAs in house to make sure that everything is going smoothly and is running safely. I hope you have enjoyed what you've heard in terms of the RA and AD role and that you are ready to charge towards the application process. Filling out the application process is generally a straightforward process. You can find the application online, and if you're interested in multiple roles, there is an option to select more than one, including the RA, AD, and ACMAN role. You can select all the residences that you're willing to work in. It is encouraged that if you are strongly interested in the role that you select multiple houses, as it will increase your likelihood of getting selected as a RA or an AD. Your resume can simply be copy pasted in the text box provided in the form. There's no need to go fancy with it. And this application will determine if you are selected for the interview. If you have applied for the RA or AD role, it is mandatory that you attend the group pre-interview day or group process day. And during this group process day, we essentially just have a bunch of activities where you work in groups and sometimes individually in situations that you might encounter as an RA, and also see how well you work in a collaborative team environment. Our genuine wish is that you do get that interview, so if and when you do reach that stage, do take it seriously and dress nicely. A business casual attire is best recommended. Try to ask your RA or AD for some guidance and prepare some answers ahead of time. But also relax. It is a fun team environment, so there's no need to psych yourself out. Just relax, take a deep breath, and it'll all go smoothly. If you have any more questions, you can email us at studentlife@mta.ca, and you can always consult your residence Don, your RA, AD, or any other residence leader for more questions about these roles. Even if they are not an RA and AD, they will have some general idea of what the role looks like, and they can point you in the right direction for finding out more. I am so excited to read your application. Best of luck.